So hi, welcome everyone, those of you joining us from DC and online from other locations. I'm Bridget Flaherty. I'm the Director of Global Engagement at the Chicago School, and we are here today to talk about the study abroad program that will be traveling to Sardinia, Italy this spring. And it just went for the first time this last spring, and that is part of what I'm sharing. Some of these photos, you'll see this one here is one example that both Dr. Maurin and some students shared photos with me, so I'm using some of those throughout as well. And I'm going to first talk a little bit about some of the basics of study abroad at the Chicago School, things you need to know about how it works. And then I will hand it over to Dr. Maurin so she can share more about the specifics of the course itself, the travel part of it, and I'm sure some of the things that you're very excited to hear about. So let's see here. Starting out with, I always like to share a little bit about study abroad and the benefits that you can get by going on a study abroad program. I do want to mention too that we're actually having a session on Monday, August 31st. And when I email everyone after this with the slides and the video, I'll also share the link to that. But that's a session that is being presented by Career Services in our office, and it focuses more on the benefits of study abroad to your career. And so I think that that's research and information in that, but these are just a few things that I wanted to share here with you. One is this research that's been done by the Institute on International Education about what types of skills students gain by going on a study abroad program, as well as what employers are looking for when they hire, when they promote. And you can see that there's a lot of overlap between these two areas. So these are the three areas of skills include interpersonal, so things like tolerance for ambiguity, intercultural skills. It includes cognitive skills like problem solving and curiosity, and then also interpersonal skills like leadership, communication, and teamwork. And then another recent research that has come out was from the Forum on Education Abroad, where they were looking specifically at students who are in business programs and have gone on study abroad. And they found that students who studied abroad came out with higher starting salaries in their first positions after they graduated than those who did not study abroad. And they saw that there were benefits across the spectrum of students. So straight A students, students who get more C's, they were all seeing this benefit if they studied abroad versus those who did not. And also that it didn't matter where students studied abroad, which country they were in, how long, if it was a short-term program, if it was a semester-long program. And this has been found across other types of programs beyond business schools as well. This is just the most recent study that's come out. And as I mentioned, that career session on Monday is going to cover a little bit more about that information too. So I want to talk a little bit about what's specific to studying abroad at the Chicago School and some of these things that might be a little bit different if any of you did have the opportunity to study abroad at the undergraduate level. So all of our courses are developed by our faculty with in their specific discipline, their area of expertise and research, and they're developed for graduate students with an academic focus. All of our programs do include a service learning project. We find that that's essential to study abroad and really engaging with the local community. And our study abroad courses are typically for 2 or 3 credits, and this course in particular is a 2-credit course. Because our student body is made up of professionals who are sometimes, working part-time or full-time, going to school, often having other maybe family obligations, other things that you need to do, other ways that you're involved in your community. We developed all of our study abroad programs where the actual travel part is usually between 1.5 to 2 weeks. It makes it a little bit easier to take time off from work, for example, or take time away from a practicum or internship if you are only needing to be gone for about 10 to 12 days. And they all take place during the breaks in the academic calendar. So you would be studying, like in this course, you'd be studying online during the spring semester, and then you would be traveling in April. And that's how all of our programs are set up to have the travel during that academic break. And you are eligible to get financial aid for study abroad if you are otherwise eligible for financial aid, if that's something you do currently receive. The most important thing is that it does need to be the course itself has to count towards your degree program. So if you were going to take a course that was outside of your degree requirements, you would have to pay for that yourself. You couldn't get financial aid for it. But as long as it's going to meet a degree requirement, you can substitute it for that course within your program, and you could receive financial aid for it. The only program that's not available for is international psychology. This is a course that's meant for clinical psychology students, so I don't think anyone here is probably in the international psychology program, but just so you know that program has its own field experiences, and study abroad can't take the place of those requirements in that program. Otherwise, it has to meet the standard rules for financial aid, and it does impact your total loan limit. As some of you are probably aware, there were some new financial aid rules, including new loan limits that started on July 1st. And so it's really important with study abroad to plan early to make sure that you can make it work with your financial aid with those new loan limits that have been put into place. But discuss your particular situation and your financial aid package with the financial aid staff. They're the ones that are going to have that expertise and be able to answer those questions for you. And if any of you are receiving military benefits to help you pay the cost of your education here, you would need to talk to the military benefits staff. In general, typically the tuition for study abroad courses has been covered by VA benefits as long as it's counting as part of your program, but it doesn't typically cover additional travel costs. So just to be aware of that. And I also want to mention our study abroad scholarship that we have. This is a $3,000 scholarship that always is awarded to between 3 to 4 students each semester for study abroad. And the application process is part of the program application itself. And so if you want to be considered for the study abroad scholarship, when you go to apply for our programs, you'll see that there's a question asking, do you want to be considered for the study abroad scholarship? You need to check yes to that, and you need to upload an essay. And you'll find information on the application about what you need to write about in the essay. And then you submit your program application that will include that essay with it. If you do want to be considered for the scholarship for one of our spring programs, September 20th is the scholarship application deadline. This is earlier than the program application deadline, so I just want you to make sure to note that if you want to be considered for the scholarship. And then one of the reasons we have that earlier deadline is so our committee can review all of the essays and then determine who's going to be awarded one before you have to make your final decision about whether or not to enroll in the course. Does anyone have questions so far about what I've covered?
Yeah, there's one. About the finances, and I understand with the loan limit as of July 1st, but how about for those that were able to circumvent that with like Grad Plus and starting early? Does that change what information I was just given?
Yes, that's a good question. So some of you who started before July 1st, you were given a different loan limit, or there's not those same loan limits that came in on July 1st. So it's really the new students that started after that are going to have those new lower limits and lifetime limits as well. But again, financial aid's going to know, they'll be able to help you with your specific situation. But if you did start early before July 1st, you don't have those same lower loan limits.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll add is for anybody in this program, this course just counts as an elective. You don't have to worry about course substitution or anything like that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, if there's not anything else right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the application process itself. So all of our programs, we have to know in advance if we're going to have enough students to run the course and then move ahead with reserving, hotels to stay in and the tour guide and all the activities that we have. And so because of that, even though this is a spring course, the deadline to apply is October 11th. So students do have to apply earlier for this. As I mentioned, that scholarship deadline's a few weeks earlier on September 20th, but the final date that you have to submit your application otherwise is October 11th. And then we have to have at least 12 students to run this course. And we will know after October 25th if that's the case. So October 25th is the add drop date for this course because it does start in spring one in January. So just so you know that this is in advance of when you typically would have to add or drop a course for spring because of the additional study abroad pieces that we need to do. And you need to, our application is online. And when I send out the email after this, I'll share a link to the application itself that's on our global portal. It's a pretty simple application process. A lot of your information is already pulled into the system from the student database, and you just have to respond or sign off on a few different pieces. And then it's only if you want to submit be considered for the scholarship that you'd have to write an essay as well. And then many of our courses, you have to do the course substitution petition, but as Dr. Maurin mentioned, this counts as an elective, so you don't actually have to go through that process for clinical psychology for this course. And then once you've submitted your application online, our office does an initial eligibility review. So to be eligible for study abroad programs, you have to be an active degree seeking student, both at the time of application and when the course itself will run. You have to have a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher. You can't have any holds on your account. So those are academic or financial holds. Sometimes students will apply and might have a balance that they owe, and so they'll have a financial hold. We'll let you know if that's the case. If we see you have a hold, we'll reach out and let you know. And then you can tell us once it's resolved, and then we can move forward with your application at that point. And then you also can't have a pending student and community standards hearing. That's basically the student conduct process at this Chicago school. So once we've checked all of these things and determined that you're eligible, then we're going to share your information with Dr. Maurin. She's going to reach out to schedule an interview with you, and then she will confirm with us if you've been admitted to the course. We'll let you know. This is all done through the global portal, but we also send this through emails. We'll let you know that you've been accepted, and then you have to officially say if you want to enroll in the course. So there's a process for you to commit to the course in the global portal. Let's see, I think I just saw a question come in. Yeah, that's a good question. So for the scholarships, we typically have 4 scholarships available for the spring semester courses. So any of our study abroad courses in the spring, students can apply for that scholarship, and 4 students will be selected, and each one would be given a $3,000 scholarship of those 4.
Just to clarify though, that's for any of the spring study abroad courses running, right? Do you know how many there are?
Well, there's 7 courses that are currently open for applications, but then it depends on which ones will run if they meet the minimum number of students to run. So sometimes if a student gets a scholarship and their program doesn't run, they could change to a different course that's being offered in the same semester, and we always communicate with them too. So it kind of varies. I would say it varies semester by semester how many students choose to apply for the scholarship and what that looks like, of what your odds are of getting a scholarship. It can vary quite a bit. And then for registration, all of that happens through our office. If you decide that you do want to enroll, we'll register you for the course. If you decide that you want to drop the course, you have to let us know and we'll drop you from the course. So you can't do any of that yourself. You can't do it with the help of your student support counselor because of the interview and eligibility process that goes along with study abroad. Okay, just a little bit more, about the cost of study abroad. What you would pay would be the tuition for the course. And I realize this says 3 credits here. I'll have to correct that. You would pay tuition for 2 credits at the doctoral level. You would pay the program fee, which for this course is just about $3,900. And what that program fee covers is your local lodging, so like staying in hotels while there, some of the local transportations. There's usually some meals included, and Dr. Maurin can tell more about the specifics, but it covers all of the scheduled activities, events, an in-country guide. All of that is covered as part of this, as well as supplemental travel insurance that I'll describe in a few minutes. And The program fee is going to be charged to your student account in the same way that tuition is. So this would be showing up as a fee for the spring on your student account, and then you can pay, you'd have that total balance due, and you can pay that in the way you would typically pay your account balance. And that program fee is not refundable after October 25th. So I mentioned that that's the add drop date for these spring courses. So after that date, we have to move ahead and commit with the provider we're working with in Italy, and we're letting them know to book everything, and we can't get a refund at that point. So just so you know that that's the final date that you need to decide whether or not you're going to enroll in the course. And then in addition to the tuition and program fee that show up on your student account, you would need to pay for airfare. Everyone's typically flying from different locations, and so everyone's booking their own airfare. And then if you do need to get a passport or renew one, whether or not you need a visa, immunizations, other things like that, and some of the extra miscellaneous travel costs as well. So this is just, again, a little bit of information about financial aid. And typically, graduate students have been able to get financial aid to help cover the tuition for the course, as well as the program fee and other travel costs like airfare. The way it's worked is that students have, if for things like airfare or a passport fee or something like that, students have had to pay for that first, and then they submit a form to financial aid along with the receipts to be reimbursed for it out of their aid. The program fee and tuition, that is more of financial aid directly going to your student account to cover those costs. The way that it typically does if you receive financial aid, it's only those extra things that you have to pay for that you would do that reimbursement process for instead. And I mentioned the supplemental insurance. This is meant to be in addition to your standard health insurance, and it covers things like emergency situations. It could cover evacuation if you need to leave the country for some urgent reason. And basically, the way it typically works is that you would go and get the care you need if that's at like an urgent care hospital emergency room, and you would pay for it up front and then get reimbursed for it through the insurance company. We send more information about this insurance closer to travel and can help with that reimbursement process, but this is just to let you know that this would help cover you during travel as well. And it will cover you for up to 7 days before and after the official program dates in Italy. So if you decide to go early or stay later after the program, this will cover you during that time period. But if you decide to travel to another nearby country, it won't cover you at that point. I do want to mention that if any of you either currently receive ADA related accommodations at the Chicago school, or if you might need something additional related to travel, that's something you would work with our Office of Student Accessibility on, and they will help determine what types of accommodations you need, and then they will work with Dr. Maurin, our office, and our provider. So we'll all work together to make sure you have what you need. And so it could be things like even looking into things like prescriptions, whether or not your medication is legal to bring to Italy, and if you need anything special for that. If you there's going to be a lot of walking, and Dr. Maurin can talk more about the physical part of this, but what you might be doing for activities during the program, and whether or not you might need extra time or some other type of accommodation related to those as well. And then I do want to mention that for any of our programs, we make sure ahead of time that it's a safe place for you to travel to, but we also keep an eye on this leading up to the day that you will depart, making sure that nothing has changed and that it continues to be a safe place for you all to go. And then also, we'll talk about this more in the orientation once a course has been approved, but that you also have to be passing the course, meeting the academic requirements to be able to travel as well. And I'll share these links in the chat as well as in the email after, but just so you know where you can find more information, you can always contact our office, as well as go to our website and the global portal where you'll find this program and others and all of the information too. This is another photo from the group that traveled this last spring. Does anyone have any questions for me at this point?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing if you wanna pull up your slides. And feel free, I know those of you who are online, feel free to put things in the chat if you do have other questions too.
It's in your top left corner.
You gotta pull it over, but why is it over there? Really doesn't want to come. No, that's not it, actually. That's not it. Lauren, you're just gonna have to follow me around all the time and be my IT person.
Come on, you knew this one. God, you're just gonna
What?
try.
Oh, but. Sorry, everybody, we're working on it. Oh, there you go. Okay. See, I'm telling you, it's a mental block. I never, ever can remember that. Okay, can everybody see the slides? I know you guys can. Can everybody online see the slides?
Yeah, I can see them.
Okay, perfect. And then do we need to move the camera?
Yeah, can you move it so it shows you?
Suppose. Do I have to?
Just a quick little trip.
One
or two.
Didn't work. Wait. Okay.
No, you gotta switch to
Actually,
that.
you guys, there's like very little technology needed on the trip itself, so you don't have to worry about this. Okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. That's, we're good, we're
Yep,
good.
that's great.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, I'm so glad to have you all here today, those in person and online. It's funny, when I did this last year, we hadn't gone yet, and so everything was kind of hypothetical, and I was like, I think this is what we'll be doing, but now we've done it once before, and so it's so fun to actually be planning it again, knowing everything I know from last trip, and we've actually made some changes based on feedback from last trip. So I think it's going to be even better this spring, although it was amazing last spring. Okay, so a little bit about, well, most of you already know me. If you don't, I don't want to spend time introducing myself now. Just know that my background's in health psychology, and health and wellness and its impact on longevity has always been a huge interest of mine. And then depending on how many students we have going, we may add a second faculty member. And if we do, it'll be Dr. Liddy, who some of you might know. Dr. Liddy is an adjunct who also has a background in health psychology and has been really interested in participating in this trip since it was being planned for the first time a few years back. So if we get enough students, he will also be joining us. Okay. Just what we'll go through today is a little bit more about the course timeline. Actually, I think Bridget covered most of that. She covered something about fees too. I'll be able to add to that a little bit. And then we'll talk about really what you're probably all here for, which is hearing a little bit more about the course itself, what that looks like, and then the itinerary and what the in-country portion will actually look like. So in terms of the timeline, as Bridget already mentioned, there'll be a class that will precede the travel abroad portion, and that's going to be in the spring 27 semester. I need to change that. And it's 2 credits. The day and time will be decided once we know who's traveling and what their availability looks like. Last year, we were able to pick an on-campus time and place, but depending on who's joining us and what the schedules look like, and if they're students from other campuses, it may be online, but it will be synchronous, if not in person. The travel dates themselves are a Monday through a Friday. We did roughly the same thing last year, and it worked really well for students to have the weekends on either side, either to get themselves acclimated to being back or to go, but also some students chose to go early and stay and or stay late to get a little extra time to travel. So that's also an option with having those dates bookended by weekends. The official deadline, like Bridget was saying, is October 11th. But if you know for sure you want to apply and can apply earlier than that, that's really helpful just from a planning perspective. So we kind of put in place a priority application deadline Friday, September 18th, which, as it turns out, actually meshes pretty well with the application deadline for the scholarship. Okay. All right, the fees, like Bridget said, the tuition is for a 2-credit class, so like any other elective, and you get credit as an elective for that. For those of you who might be interested in pursuing the health and the health psychology area of emphasis, this will count as an elective towards that area. But you know, you can also, you have the option. I mean, if you're not interested in pursuing that, it really doesn't matter. It'll count if you wanted to, and it won't if you don't. So Bridget talked about the program fee. It's right around $3,900. That includes all your accommodations, all the tours. You'll see there's multiple tours thrown in there. There's a cooking class that's included. Any admissions to any museums we might go to, or anything else that has an entrance fee. All breakfasts are covered, 1 lunch is covered, and 3 dinners are covered. So that does leave a lot of lunches and dinners. And our students last year were pretty creative in terms of how they handled that. There's usually stores available, especially for people who, you know, want to make sure they're spending less. There's stores available where you can stock up on provisions, you can picnic. There's usually like pizza places, so getting a slice of pizza is pretty inexpensive. So I think there are ways to, you know, make it so that you're not spending a ton of money on meals, again, if that's of concern. And then almost all on-ground transportation is covered. So the only thing that's not covered is the arrival to Cagliari, not the airfare, that's also not covered. But once you arrive in Cagliari, there's a quick train that takes 10 minutes, gets you right downtown and within 5 minutes of the hotel. Because people come in at all different times, it's not really possible to arrange transportation to get everybody. And if we did, it would be much more expensive. So it's very easy, and we'll send you all the information you need to be able to do that. And actually, groups of people were arriving at the same time last time. So our in-country tour guide, this guy named Francesco, who's wonderful and had such a good time, he wants to do it again this coming spring. He and I would go to the airport to actually greet people as they came. So, you know, if we can do that again this year, we will absolutely do that, and then help them take transportation. The airfare also is something that you cover on your own. I literally checked last night, and the rates are pretty good right now. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to book until we confirm whether the trip's going, which is late October. But right now they're between $850 and $1,000 for economy light, and between $1,100 and $1,300 for economy comfort. So, you know, decent right now.
Is that round trip or just?
That's round trip. Important. And I will say that people last year, I looked at single stop. There are no direct flights. So I looked at 1-stop flights, and I filtered out flights with 2 stops. But people last year got better deals. They were just a little more willing to, you know, be adventurous than I was. I didn't want to have to stop more than once. So you can absolutely play around. They also get better deals, like sticking around for a couple of days, because the flights differ based on when you fly in and fly out. So there's definitely ways to get better rates. Technically, you'd fly into Cagliari, which is the capital city of Sardinia, and then you would fly out of Olbia, which is a town that's closer to the area where we would be leaving from, or where we'll spend the second part of the trip. And the transportation to Olbia to leave is covered. Okay. Stop me if you guys have questions, but I'll keep going in the meantime. So the course itself is really kind of an overview of health behaviors and longevity, as the title implies. We'll start out really talking about health span versus lifespan. Those are two very different things. The US has a decent lifespan, but its health span is terrible. And health span is essentially how many years you can live disease-free. So the US actually has the worst discrepancy between health span and lifespan of any country literally in the world. So that's kind of a big deal, and we talk about that and kind of why that is. Then we talk about demographic patterns and trends and patterns in longevity. We talk about a number of physical factors that pertain to longevity and health span. So exercise, obviously, diet, sleep, hearing. We talk about cognitive and social factors, including community, which is so important and something that that was so acutely highlighted when we were traveling in Sardinia. We talk about psychological factors that play a role in health span, including loneliness and just general mental health. And then we talk about current trends in promoting longevity, because as I'm sure you guys know, there's a lot of people out there engaging in a lot of biohacking, and we'll watch a movie about that too. And one of the assignments that students do is pick a current trend and really analyze it to see if there's empirical support for it. So that's actually a really fun aspect of the class itself before we travel. I'm going to skip that for now, just because we have a lot of time. The two movies we'll watch. Were you excited about Zac Efron? So Zac Efron did a whole series called Down to Earth, where he traveled to different locations around the world. One of them was Sardinia, so we'll watch that episode. It's actually pretty quick. It's about 35 minutes. And then we'll watch Don't Die. And these are like two very contrasting films. Because Down to Earth is really about like return to tradition and really examining how communities, work together to extend lifespan, or what about communities extends lifespan. And then Don't Die, I don't know if you guys know who Brian Johnson is, or if anybody has seen this movie. He's all about kind of biohacking and doing everything he can to live as long as he possibly can. He's been in the news a lot. And so just a really interesting kind of juxtaposition to watch these two different approaches to longevity. In terms of the course assignments before travel, so as part of the class itself, there's a health behavior change assignment. So you will pick a health behavior that you want to change for yourself, and you'll track it over the period of a few weeks. And that is really designed both to get you thinking about your own health, but also, part of the way this class is designed is to make you be thinking about what you can be doing to help clients also. As you know, there's such a significant correlation between physical health and mental health. And so I think health behaviors is something we should be thinking about when we work with any client, and something we should be talking about with all of our clients. So part of the goal is for you to do this for yourself, to also know how it feels to really try to target a health behavior, and to see, what are the challenges with that. It will also help you, I think, when you're doing clinical work and helping people try to change their own health behaviors, understand what are some of the factors that can kind of get in the way, what are some of the motivating factors. I already talked about the longevity intervention presentation. That's when you'll pick a topic, something that's trending, to really drill down and see, is there support for this? Is this something you would recommend to your clients? Is this something you would do for yourself? The course assignments during travel are obviously to attend and engage with all the in-country activities, but mostly just to really have fun, enjoy yourself, really kind of immerse yourself in the culture and feel what it is to live in Sardinia. It's an amazing place. The people are so, so friendly and so welcoming, and I just can't say enough amazing things about it. And then after travel, there'll be a signature assignment. And that it's essentially kind of a reflection on your experience abroad. You can be creative, like you can do a blog post, involves posting or including some pictures in it. I actually posted one person's example here on the left. That's just a portion of it, but she did such a good job with it. So I wanted to highlight that. And then this is another student who actually is an artist. This was her drawing of just memories and associations with the trip. So she included that in hers too. So it's a really fun way to kind of, again, reflect on the trip and what was really meaningful to you about it. Okay, anybody know why we picked Sardinia?
Don't they have like a really like long lifespan of just like people can live really well into their elderly years without having any like true diseases or any problems there?
Yeah, so Sardinia is considered one of the blue zones. And if you've heard of the blue zones, there are 5 of them that were originally identified. They are Sardinia, Okinawa, Japan, Ikaria, Greece, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and then Loma Linda, California. And so we'll talk a little bit about all of those, how the blue zones were identified in class. But Sardinia is one of the blue zones, and that's why I picked that. And it has the highest, this area of Sardinia has one of the highest concentrations of centenarians in the entire world. So I think in the US there's 5 to 6 per thousand, and in Sardinia there's about 30 per thousand. So much, much higher concentration. Oh, and it also has the highest concentration of male centenarians in the world, which is really interesting and unique. And so we'll talk a little bit about why that is as well. I didn't see these guys, but I thought they were cute. So I did include actual pictures through a lot of this. So you'll see those too. Okay, anybody I can identify where Sardinia is?
Is it in the lower half of the boot? So we're looking at kind of the it's in Sicily.
No, I'm asking.
Oh,
where
so
over here?
No, a little bit higher, like in the Neapolitan region.
Okay, good guess. Anybody else?
I'd get more.
It's actually this island. So it's an island. This is Corsica. Corsica is part of Greece, but this is Sardinia. And one of the other really cool things about it, which I don't have time to talk about now, but you can see how centrally located it is here. And so it's a really interesting confluence of cultures. There's actually a tiny town up here that speaks the Basque language. Do you guys know what that is? It's a language that's literally only found outside of Sardinia, and it's originally Spanish in this kind of area here of Spain. So that's really cool that it's, you know, one of the few places in the world that speaks this language, and it's because of how accessible it is to that area of the world. What those additional circles are on there, I will try to get rid of those. But just so you have a sense of kind of where we will be. So Cagliari, like I said, is the capital. This is where you'll fly into. We'll spend a few days here, and then we'll go up here to Balnea, which is right on the coast and in the heart of the blue zone. And I tried to kind of represent where the blue zone is here. And then we'll, at the very end, just drive up to Olbia, and we'll fly out of Olbia. Okay, so what does that actual itinerary look like? So obviously the first day you'd be flying in, or rather day 1 you will leave, and then day 2 you'll arrive in Cagliari, and we'll have dinner at a traditional restaurant. This is our welcome dinner last year. It's delicious. The food was amazing, and the food is so good. I mean, obviously it's Italy, but they have a lot of their own traditional dishes too. That's really fun. They have these, well, I'll show them to you in a little bit actually. Day 3, so let me backtrack for 1 second. One of the pieces of feedback we got from the students is that there was very little downtime, which was not in how the class was originally designed or how the in-country time was originally designed, but anybody who's been to Italy or that area of the world knows that Italians take their time on everything. So it just ended up, our activities ended up taking longer than expected. So this time I really tried to actually build in some downtime just to make it a little bit calmer, especially as people are acclimating to having arrived. So day 3, we have a tour of the Castello district. It's this district high on a hill in Cagliari. It's beautiful. That's a view from it there. This is just another picture from that area. And then the afternoon is free time. And there's so much to do there. I mean, it's very kind of, it's not super touristy. It's very lived in. So it's just fun to wander around. It's beautiful. But there's also a beach area that's south of the town. You can rent bicycles. That's what we did this past year. Bike down there. There's a flamingo or a sanctuary with a lot of flamingos. So plenty of stuff to do in your free time. On day 4 in the morning, we'll go to the University of Cagliari and we'll visit with longevity researchers. That was a really fun part of our trip last year as well. Although I will say that the people we ended up meeting with were mostly geneticists, and I think most of what they talked about went way over our heads. So the people that I had wanted to meet with were out of town at a conference. I'm hoping it will be a different, their schedule will be different this year and we can actually meet with longevity researchers. It was still really interesting and, you know, fun to meet grad students in another country. And, but I think it would be more useful to meet with people who can speak about things that we can, you know, understand a little bit better. And then there'll be lunch at a market called San Benedetto Market. It's the largest covered market in all of Italy. It's tons of great food and it's like a huge farmer's market essentially, but also with prepared foods. And then another free afternoon. And then on day 5 is when we head to the Blue Zone. So here's the part that's going to be different. So we went to a different town last year. But this year we looked for something that was a little bit smaller. The town we went to was lovely, but it was a little larger, so a little hard to get to know. We stayed out of town a little bit, so there's no way to walk into town. So we looked for something where we could actually stay in town this time and be able to walk everywhere, walk to meals, and not have to rely on transportation as much. This is a town that is supposed to be lovely, that is truly in the heart of the Blue Zone. It's beautiful. It's also near the coast. Everywhere you go in this area, you can get these amazing views, and you can actually see the ocean off in the distance here. It's actually not very far at all. So that first day we'll transfer there, and then we'll have a walking tour of the town. And then the next day, there's a lot of traditional shepherds in the area. That's actually partly why they think the men are so long living, is because the traditional lifestyle is being a shepherd. So as part of their jobs, shepherds would just walk miles and miles and miles every day. And that, as we know, that's, you know, very healthy. So we'll visit a traditional shepherd's farm, and there'll be a lunch that's included with storytelling, and then a service learning project where we'll hopefully be able to actually help out on this farm. So I'm really excited about that. That's new this year. Day 7, there are so many because it's so mountainous, there are beautiful hikes everywhere. So we'll hike in this area called Valmella. You can see there's like water kind of running through these rock formations. Again, I haven't been there because it's a new area, but it's supposed to be beautiful. And then we'll have another service learning project where we'll actually meet with centenarians in Villa Grande, which is the one town in Italy that literally has the highest concentration of centenarians, and Sardinia, obviously. We did this in a different town last year. This is a picture. They were the sweetest ladies you could ever imagine. One was about to turn 100 and the other was 102. We were actually featured in the newspaper and on Instagram. But I just have to tell you, and I'm keeping an eye on time because I know we're getting late, but this lady is the 102-year-old. And when they first called them to set this up, they had actually asked this lady to be the person who would come and speak to the class, and asked this lady to be the backup. And the 102-year-old was like, I'm not being anybody's backup. If you want me to come, like, I'll be there. Isn't that the cutest thing? So they were both there, and they were just so lovely, and just had such, I mean, it was the most, I would say, one of the most meaningful portions of the whole trip. Everybody was in tears at the end. It was really, they were so sweet. Okay, then the next day we'll drive to a tiny town called Ulasai. It has a textile cooperative that is the oldest running business in Sardinia that's run by women. It's been around for, I think, 55 years now. Again, new, so I can't speak to it personally, but it looks really interesting, and they'll give us a tour. And then this is an actual picture from last year. We'll visit a, sorry, I can't necessarily see, but we'll visit a cheese making farm and meet the cheesemakers. And we did that last year in a different location, and that was also amazing. Like I said, everybody's just so sweet and so welcoming and so kind. And everywhere we went, they would have food out for us and wine, and it was really, really special. Then we'll have a more active day on day 9. We'll go canyoning. If anybody doesn't want to do this, we had a couple people sit out last year. We didn't quite do canyoning, but we did a long hike into a canyon. And one of them is not a big hiker and decided she was going to do it and push herself, and was so happy she did. The other is not a big hiker, and she decided to sit out that day. And she was like, I'm so happy with my decision. So you know, nobody should feel obligated, but there is amazing, you see the views. It's just so beautiful there. But there'll be another way to kind of get out onto the water too, which you'll see in a minute. On day 10, we will visit a winery and then have a cooking class. Cananal is a grape varietal that's native to Sardinia, and it has the highest level of phytonutrients and resveratrol of any red wine. And so they also attribute part of their longevity to that. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I'm going with it while we're there. And then there'll be a cooking class that night. And this is what I was talking about. They're called curligiones. They're like little raviolis, but with this really distinct kind of shape to them. They're delicious. They're filled with all kinds of things, potatoes, cheese, leeks. And then our final day, we'll take a boat trip along the Gulf. That's one of our students. I know she's hidden, but she was jumping off the rocks. Again, you don't have to do that, but you're welcome to. The temperature of the ocean was actually really nice, like a little chilly, but for April, the fact that you could swim there was amazing. And this boat trip was one of the highlights for people too. And so we actually made it the last day, because last year it was the second to last day, and people felt like the next day was a real like letdown. So we moved it to the last day for this trip. And then that night there'll be a farewell dinner, which will be a traditional shepherd's dinner. And then the last day we'll have our final breakfast, and we'll leave for Olbia and head home. So you probably got a sense of this throughout the itinerary, but in terms of academic and cultural visits, we'll go to the University of Cagliari. We'll have a number of culinary experiences. There's 2 service learning projects built in: the Shepherds, the farm visit, and the centenarian visit. And then we'll see a bunch of traditional Sardinian towns along the way. So we'll be staying in Balnea. We'll go to Villa Grande. We'll go to the textile cooperative. So you'll really get a very good sense, I think, for what it feels like to live in that region. This is not, it's a high exertion class, okay? Even if you choose not to do something like canyoning, that whole region of Sardinia is mountainous. I mean, you saw from the pictures, right? So it's hard to avoid getting exercise. So hopefully that's not something that's going to scare you away. I met with a student from another program who heard all the active stuff, and I was like, decided maybe it wasn't for her, and that's totally fine. I just want to be really upfront from the outset, because part of living a long life and living healthily is being active and being engaged, and so that's stuff we built into this. So in terms of accessibility, there is, pretty extensive walking, a lot of hills, not necessarily a lot of stairs, but definitely a lot of hills. Again, hilly and remote areas. There won't always be that housing. Oh, housing should be fine. I don't think that stairs necessarily are required in housing, although I can't guarantee that. And then in terms of the academic piece, that is fully accessible because that's a university. I thought I would wrap up with some quotes from some of the students who went last year. I'll let you read through them. This one was told to me personally and really made me laugh because I had just finished telling someone else, don't tell my family, but this was by far like my favorite trip I ever went on. So I was right there with her. I really can't say enough good things. And I don't want anybody to be scared off because last trip was so great. Like, I think this trip will be great every time we do it. And I think it'll be great in different ways every time. And it just, like, I can't say enough good things about it. I thought it was just amazing. So I will stop there. Does anybody have questions? Yeah.
Which hotel are we gonna stay at?
So that doesn't get decided until we confirm the trip. I can tell you which hotel we stayed at in Cagliari, which I suspect will be the same one. We stayed at, I think it was called the Reina Margarita, maybe. I can send it to you, but I can't guarantee it'll be the same hotel because the company we work with in Italy kind of negotiates group rates after they know that we're definitely going. Yeah.
There's like class meetings throughout the semester in the spring to prep.
Yeah,
this.
it's an actual class in the spring. Like literally it's like cognitive assessment, but 2 credits instead of 3.
Okay. What's like for first year specifically? What's like the workload that would be on top of everything else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, because it's a 2-credit elective and it's not a 3-credit class, the electives do tend to be less. I mean, I actually would love to hear from you if you're willing to share because you've taken a lot of electives. Like, do you feel like electives typically are less work?
It depends.
It
Yeah,
depends.
It really does depend on the class. I did a study abroad trip, but it was like half of the summer semester, so it was kind of a lot. But yeah, like if it's a full semester, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. And because part of the class involves the travel component, I didn't over assign assignments in the first part because that's not the entirety of the class. That's just half the class. So the 2 assignments were the ones you heard about, which were the health behavior change project, which I don't think is a huge time commitment, and the presentation, which is probably a little bit more of a time commitment, but it's 1 day.
Yeah. So then what are like what do the rest of the classes look like? Is it
There are
just-
lecture classes and discussion classes, and there's some readings, obviously, but yeah, it's a good question. It's not, I don't think it's a huge amount of work, but I mean, as a first year, definitely I would think about what that semester is going to look like for you. And we can sit down and talk about it a little bit more too, if you want to talk through it.
Okay. Thank you.
There is a question in the chat. Can you see the chat or do you want me to read that to you?
I can probably find it. Let's see it. What requirement will the study abroad class fulfill on the degree audit if a different area of emphasis is chosen? Would you still have to fulfill all the elective courses listed under your area of emphasis? Yeah, that's a great question. So everybody in the program takes 5 electives. And for the areas of emphasis, it's 3 electives. So this would just count as one of your additional electives, your 4th or 5th elective. Does that answer your question? All right, any other questions? Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, thank you. So what's the travel time between places? Cagliari, Brunei, Olbia. So you would switch hotels twice. So there's one hotel in Cagliari and then we'll move to Brunei and that's a separate hotel. I think the travel time is probably about 2 to 3 hours to Brunei and probably again about 2.5 hours from Brunei to Olbia.
And we're not staying in Olbia, it's just where the airport is.
Yeah. Most of the flights leave around noon. So we took off around 8 that morning and we're there in plenty of time. But then also a couple of people stayed and went north because there's some pretty islands up there. A couple people actually went back to Cagliari and flew to Rome from there. So it really depends on what you want to do next.
So you don't have to fly out of Olympia.
No, the only thing is that you would be responsible for covering your own travel costs to go back to Cagliari.
Whereas you cover it to get to Olympia.
Correct. But there's also lots of flights out of Olbia. It's a very popular airport because a lot of people who go to the more resorty areas in Sardinia fly into that airport. So it's not like you can only, go to a couple destinations from there. Cool. All right, great question.
Just when would we be notified if we are selected for the program? So that depends on, like, it's a ongoing process. So you would apply, our office would do the eligibility review, give your information to Dr. Maurin, she'd reach out to interview you, and then soon after the interview, you'd find out if you were accepted, basically.
Okay, sorry, does that answer your question? And I got rid of you guys by accident. There you are. There's another class in here, so we're gonna have to vacate the classroom, but feel free to just email me directly if there's any questions, okay?
And if anyone in the classroom hasn't registered for this, would you go ahead and do that? Because then I'll include you on the email that's gonna have the links, the slides, everything included.
It was in the flyer I sent out, if you guys saw that.
Great, well, thank you all.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for
Thank you
coming.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks for coming.